far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into our session of Women in Politics with my great panelists that are here today. It's going to be very informative, it's going to be insightful, it's going to be fun. So without further ado, please, I'd like to note that we have Alethea O'Hara Stevenson and we have Velma Morgan. And as usual, I'd like to have my panelists introduce themselves so that you get to hear from their own words as to who they are, what they're engaged with, and what's going on. So Alethea, we will start with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yvette. And it's an honor to be here to share the stage, the virtual stage, with another amazing trailblazer, Velma Morgan. Thank you so much. My name is Alethea O'Hara Stevenson. I am the president and founder of the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, an organization that was established in 2020 to lead, educate, advocate, and empower our Black communities in the heart of Dufferin County. I was also recently appointed as a school board trustee for Upper Grand District School Board. So I wear many hats, along with being a mom of 3 incredible children, a wife, and also a director with one of the largest financial institutions, in fact, the largest financial institution in Canada. So that is a little bit about Alethea, and I'll hand it back over to you, Yvette.
All right, and Velma?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Yvette. Hi, Alethea. Thank you for inviting me to this this panel. I think it's long overdue. I am a teacher, and I see that Karen Brown from Elementary Teachers of Ontario is online. So hi, Karen Brown. I'm also the chair of Operation Black Vote and the chair of the 1834 Fellowship. I've been involved in politics since I was 15 years old. So since I was 15, I've worked on election campaigns at all levels of government. And I've been a political staffer for about 10 years with the Ontario legislature. So when I talk about politics, I'm talking about politics from my lived experience. It's not something that I've read or heard about, but it's something that I've actually engaged in. And that's why I am so passionate about the work that we do at Operation Black Vote, trying to get more Black people elected, connected, and appointed to government in all levels of government, all levels of government.
Fantastic. So ladies, let's springboard off of that then, right? So when we think about politics as the general scope as to both provincial, federal, municipal, in the sense of what we're speaking of. So as Black women, we're seeing where there's more of a growth of a participation over the past, I would say, 2 runs of the various provincial or municipal elections per se. What do you see as some of the positives that have been happening within that area? So, you know, Velma, I know with Operation Black Vote, it's really the push to be able to both educate, support, and galvanize to go in different sectors to get women to actively come and participate. So I will start with you as to what's happening, the positives that you are seeing, and then Alethea, I'll come over on your side of things, okay, from a candidate's perspective also, right? So
from an Operation Black Vote perspective, we think a lot of the work that we've been doing in community for the past 8 years, 8 to 9 years. Actually, Operation Black Vote is 20 years this year. I've been the chair since 2016, and we've had a revamping and a re-engagement of community. And our goal is to demystify running for political office, what it means to run for political office, how to run for political office. And I think we've contributed to some of that awakening of saying to Black women, you know, this is your space as well, and you should be able to run and win. So the positives that we've seen more Black women putting their name on ballots in all levels of government. And because we've seen more Black women putting their name on the ballot, we've seen an increase of Black women winning at all levels of government. You know, this year in the 2025 election, we had four black women elected. For the longest time, after Jean Augustine, there was 0 Black women. And then Marcy got elected. So yeah, we've seen an increase in Black women putting their name on the ballots and winning. So that is a positive. And because of that, we've also seen an increase in Black women, either a parliamentary secretary role or in cabinet. Not enough, but there has been a small increase.
okay, and Alethea?
And I commend you for the work that you're doing with Operation Black Vote, Velma, and we definitely need more of that. From my community perspective, the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association has done similar events where we are putting sessions out there where we're having experts coming on board to talk about the political process, what it means to run for municipal election or any level of local government. It's also fundamental that we're able to provide the education to share about all the different roles that are available in the political process. And part of that also comes from the ground up, right? So the volunteering, those grassroots efforts to be able to get individuals engaged in the process and involved. So that's important. From a candidate perspective, The first time that I actually made a decisive effort to run was after a appointed elected official, sorry, an appointed official said to me, you know what, there's a position coming up, election coming up, I think you should run. And I'm not sure if that individual read my thoughts or read my mind, but the fact that they were able to see something in me and actually encouraged me to run was the catalyst for change for me personally. Further to that, it was Selena Caesar Chavan, her role, because she was such a public advocate at the time, her role encouraged me even more to put my name in the hat because I was now able to see someone in a leadership position, someone who looks like me, who was able to stand tall and proud in parliament and say, you know what, this is who I am. That gave me the courage to run. So the first time that I ran, I did not win. The second time that I ran, I did not win. But at the same time, it gave me the tools, the resources, the network, and the education that I needed to be able to go forward. In the process, a number of young women in my community demonstrated that they now have an interest in politics because they saw someone who looked like them running for office. Fast forward many years later, a vacancy came up with my board, and I was able to apply throughout the process and ultimately appointed. And so all of the efforts that led to me being here, they were not failures. They were ultimately a path to success. And it all stemmed from someone seeing something in you and saying, you know what, go for it. And then seeing that representation. Velma talked about for the longest while before, after Jean Augustine, there weren't many women in office. And quite frankly, I did not see that representation until Selena raised her hand and said, you know what, I am here. This is who I am. So absolutely important. Seeing is believing, and that representation. I know we're tired of hearing those words, but representation absolutely does matter.
Can I
Somebody give a follow-up? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a follow-up. So your experience, we did a 20-year study of Black people running for elected office over the past 20 years. And your experience in having someone tapping you on the shoulder and encouraging you to run is exactly the experience of a lot of the women in our study. So most women, just women in general, need to be asked 7 times before they say yes, because they have to, they have to put their personal life in order, the professional life. They want to get all these degrees in order to run. Meanwhile, they're probably already ready to run, but they have all these things they have to do. For Black women, it's even more than 7 times, but most Black women who have run for elected office is because somebody tapped them on the shoulder. Somebody encouraged them to run. So your experience is a normal experience, but I think what we need to do is more of that. We need to tap more Black women out there. The fact is, Black women are out there in the community doing the work already. They're influencing policy that they don't even know that they are already. So why not run and sit at those decision-making tables as an elected official?
And to your point, demystify this aspect about who can run, what can run, right? Because I find within our communities, we always seem to think that it must be someone that has a title, hold a position of high, or has, a very affluent bank account. Granted, we know that depending on certain parties and which position you are running for, you're going to have that bank account or the financial backing and support. But before, and I would say that it has swung a bit. Now, it could be because some of the political parties, one in particular, doesn't have the funding base that it used to have, that parties would support the candidates that they really wanted to push. Right now we're seeing it's still strategic in a sense as to where they're going, but a lot of our candidates who are running have to have that understanding that now you really have to do a lot of groundwork. Like if you're putting your name forward, you cannot be so reliant on thinking that the party is going to carry you all the way through. So when people think about politics, and we look from more the provincial, federal, that's a campaign office that has to be open, that has to be staffed. You have to have a campaign manager, right? So we start to run the gamut. Signs have to be purchased, your leaflets that have to be put through, and with the various We think provincially, where with the Conservatives putting forward some of those legislations that they've put, monies that normally would have been able to easily come from unions or other supports to help offset campaigns, in particular for Black and racialized members running that don't have the coffers to do it so much. It has now put a bit of a monkey wrench, right, in the sense as to the full support base. But in the demystifying it, it's a matter of, okay, educational wise and in the educational space, what do we need to do to really have individuals have a solid understanding of what it is to run? So Alethea, I'll go to you and then over to Velma.
Absolutely. So if we look at the educational system as a start, we need to teach politics 101 in the schools. Civics alone is not going to cut it. And so if it means that we need to have elected officials who look like the student population come in and talk about their role, whether it's the role of a trustee, a counselor, a mayor, or an MP, have those real conversations with the students, that will definitely make a difference. We also need to have those educational sessions at the community level, knocking on doors. So many individuals are disengaged, they're not interested in voting. And part of the reason is they don't understand the direct impacts each level of government will have on them, on their own lives. And so those grassroots conversation is also crucially important to get community members engaged in every level of the election process. We also need to ensure that not just from having the conversation to educate them, but to get them engaged to come out and support the candidates who are actually putting their names forward. Oftentimes it's okay, they've got it, but we've seen time and time again when qualified candidates put their name forward and the community thinks that they've got it, no problem. And those candidates that they're hoping to win don't get a seat. And so that community commitment is definitely important and crucial. That engagement to go out and get out the vote. I think we've heard that those words often enough. Get out the vote. It's crucially important. It's not enough to say, yes, they've got it. You need to actually go out and exercise your right. And so part of that community education is about educating at every level of the political process to make sure that everyone knows the role and the importance of their vote as well.
I agree. I think right now it's a half credit elective civics. The civic is a half credit elected in high school. It should actually be a full credit and it should be mandatory, and it should start from elementary school. I know you do civics in grade 5, but often it's a trip to City Hall or Queen's Park, but it needs to be more involved. So kids understand our political system, including our voting system. We're part of a group of people who are lobbying for the government to lower the voting age to 16. People think is, oh my gosh, but we've already lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. 16-year-olds can drive, they can work, they pay taxes. Why can't they vote for their elected officials? We know that the earlier you start to vote, the more it becomes habit forming and you continue to vote throughout your life. Most polling stations are in high schools, so it makes it even easier for youth to vote. Black youth is one of the largest youth population, so they can actually make a difference if they were able to vote at 16. That's probably why people don't want them to vote. But we need to educate our population on voting and getting involved and why getting involved. I have often talked to people and they say to me, I'm not into politics. And I say, well, you know what? Politics is really into you. So you need to also be into politics and understand how it works and help to influence it, or else you're going to be caught, behind a lot of rocks. So that's just the population in general. Now, what we do is provincially and federally, we actually speak to the party leaders and we ask party leaders to run Black candidates in winnable ridings for their particular party. We ask the leaders to visit their ridings, just as they would do any star candidate, visit their ridings, do fundraisers for them, and support them support Black candidates as you would your star candidate. And a lot of parties have started to do that, and we've seen that that they've gone in and done fundraisers for them. They've done other things for them. Political parties have also started different kind of funds that you could tap into. if you're running for their particular party. You just have to know about it. But going into it, you also have to know what's involved. The fact that you're going to have to take off maybe like, 2 to 3 months off work. Are you able to do that? Are you ready to do that? Are you ready to pay a campaign manager? Is your family ready to not have, having you working 18-hour days? So while we want more Black candidates, in particular women, to run, we want you to know what's in it before you get into that position, because studies have shown that Black women are just equally as electable as anybody else, given the proper resources and supports and writing that they're in. They're winnable. Like, people are not saying we're not going to vote for you because you're Black. Because we usually people vote for a party and not really for the individual. So if you're running in a particular riding that's winnable for that particular party with the supports and resources, then you're going to win.
And 100%, because we can see that. Because if we look at even why did her name just went out of my head? Conservative.
Leslie Lewis.
Thank you. Look at the riding that Leslin is in. Jeez.
Yeah.
There's no Black people there. So, but she's there. It was a winnable ride-in, parachuted in, and has consistently won her seat, right? So we do see that happening. If you look at David Smith, though, from trustee, he was a very strong trustee that is on the ground, which I think is a politician I think a lot of people sleep on. That man works, and he really works his riding and his constituents. So whenever they're always thinking he's not going to win, you end up seeing that he pulls off his numbers, right? So and it just goes through. So it's not a matter so much as that, but let's look at us and turn inwards, though. So with all that said, we do know that we still face hurdles, right? And we have the biases that are happening because some have become very evidentiary from those candidates that have been in the seats, right, of power and have voiced certain things of the anti-Black racism that has been exhibited. But let's look to the historical framework of how we vote. Okay, so when we think about it, are certain political parties still taking us for granted because of where our vote is landing? What would you say? Or if we look at it now too, this is the first time in, I'd say, I've tried to run from 2003 was my first candidacy. Been out of the game for a while, but as we see, this is the most Black individuals and female in particular too that have run for the Conservatives. We have swung from all the way liberal, right? Then we tiptoed a bit into NDP, where we started to see a large pool when we looked at the, public power under Hampton, where we had a good little run of people there. Andrew Hovath had a good little chunk of people there. But now the pendulum just swung away from liberal over to conservatives. What say you in the sense as to how are they pulling us? How are they starting to pull us from what is normally the traditional strongholds? Velma?
I think for a very, very long time, and in particular, I guess was my mom's generation, who came in through, Trudeau Senior open door policy. They were just liberals, and they were very, very committed to the liberals. Come hell or high water, we're going to vote liberals. And I think there's a new generation of people, whether there's new immigrants coming in, second or third generation, who is basically saying, "What have you done for me lately?" And so now we're diversifying our vote, because we're not a monolithic community. We're diversifying our votes, and we're going to different parties. I mean, there's people who federally who are, vote for the Bloc or ran for the Bloc that are Black. So I think you can't say that, we don't really care about that particular group of people because they're all going to vote liberals anyway. Now every political party has to care about where we're going to go. And they have to fight for our votes now, because we're not committed to one political party anymore as we were before.
Alethea?
Yeah, I think Velma stated that nicely. I think, each party now has to work for the vote, and individuals are no longer committed to a particular party. It's, the things that they're looking for, the changes that the community members are looking to see. So they're going to go for those parties that are appealing to their immediate needs. And I don't think I can put any blame there, because I think individually I'd want to go where, that party is going to be looking out for my needs and my children's needs as well. So, yeah, I don't think there's any more that we can add to that.
No, which is true in the case of that. But funding is very important, right? And I like to say to people, you know, in Velma with Operation Black Gold, you guys do a great job too with the mentorship program that you put forward, where you get individuals who have ran previously to come and do the panel discussions, right, with the younger people. And that goes to Alethea, your educational piece that you were speaking of, is the fact that that is a good sounding box, right? Because it does get individuals to have a firsthand account of the experiences of what people have gone through and the expectations that are required, right? So it'll be a matter that we need to do more of that to get people to really have a solid footing and understanding as to everything that it requires and what you need to really run an effective campaign. Because a lot of times too, Vel, like you say, when you're running for a party, if it's not in the municipal scopes, let's take municipal out for a second, because you really don't run by party, even though we know people are attached to parties. You are basically carrying the party platform, right? So a lot of people think they may be going in to be their own individualistic self. However, it's a party platform. You are speaking to the nuanced pieces of the party. And it really comes down to, you have to stop and think that, do you truly align to all aspects of what that party stands for? And some people miss that. They think they're going in as the individual, but they like bits and pieces, or they may like the party leader, but they themselves have not looked at the platform and the real historical aspects of that party. So when we're talking about Black people running, Black women running, how do we really break down? And I understand representation, it's key. Everyone has to be at every table, because we need our voices and our insights that are there. So hopefully, where it's not going right to disrupt, where it's going well to help to make sure you build, right? And where there might be any form of ignorance or arrogance, it's to be constructive, redirecting to back to where it needs to be. But what do we see that we need to do? Because if we look present day in aspects of anti-racism, ABR, equity being eroded, what do we need to start to do more so within our community perspective, because community is key also, as to what is the role to make sure that we're helping those who step into these positions, that they're held accountable and that they themselves understand. So Velma, I'll go back to you first.
There's lots of layers there. So I'm going to tackle basically, I guess, the first layer. I personally believe that we need to be a part of all political parties. We need to be a part of all political parties, because when they're having their conversation, we need to be at the table saying, well, no, 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 that's not the way it works, whether in government or not in government, or offer up our lived experience on different policies that they might be coming up with. So having said that, I think as a community, we need to stop shaming people who are conservatives. You know, I've been in rooms with conservatives and they're like, I'm not going to put my hand up and say I'm a conservative, because when I put my hand up, people, you know, saying why you're conservative or you're racist against your own people. And I think we have to stop shaming people for the party that they belong to. What we do need to do, though, is that encourage them that once they're, if they're elected, or even if they're not elected, but they go to their party convention, or they're part of their party writing association, that they make sure that they bring our issues to the forefront with positive solutions that's going to help our community, regardless of party. And that's why I think we need to have us everywhere. We also need to, I think, before we go into these situations, just like you would do any other job that you're applying for or wanting to get, understand the environment that you're going to work in. Understands the rules and the regulations. Yvette, I've seen you at annual meetings. I know you know that annual meeting rules and regulations on the back of your hand, to the point where I remember once we had to stop because they didn't know it, but you knew it. Going into politics, whether it's at municipal level, provincial level, federal level, read the rules and regulations, understand where things are, and go in it with the idea that at least the first year, I'm going to just go in to try to learn. A lot of us go in thinking that they're going to change 158 years of an institution in 4 years, or some people think 1 year. I think you need to go in and you need to listen for a year and then strategically decide what am I going to tackle and who are my allies am I going to bring along with me to help make change, because change will happen, but it's not going to happen if you go in and think, okay, the first 6 months I'm going to change this institution. And I think we have to realize that especially government is slow when it wants to be. It's slow. So we have to be very strategic in the way that we make our movements, in the way that we want to make change, and we have to bring allies along. But before we do that, we have to understand the rules before we can change the rules.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to just jump right in, Yvette, because you touched on some gems there, Velma. And, as much as the onus is on the individual as well, I think we need to put that same onus back on the community, because sometimes community have this huge expectation of candidates that, or, elected officials that you're in, you have to make change right away. And so now you're trying to learn the policy, learn the systems, and you're making small incremental steps. It may not be massive changes that from an external perspective you're seeing, but those processes and steps are moving along, but the community does not see that. And so they're expecting you to make changes immediately, and it's step aside, you're not doing enough. No, you can't expect, as you said, 158 years of systemic barriers to be repealed and changed overnight. So that level of courtesy and patience is also required from the community perspective to give our candidates a chance, not necessarily to say give them freedom to slack off, but hold them accountable, but also understand that there is work that needs to go in to make sure that these changes are lasting and that they will actually be impactful for the community in the long run.
Yeah, and people need to be informed, right? I don't know if it's because it's my poli-sci crim background, but I read everything, policies, procedures, again, and then I'm a rebel, right? So if I gotta fight, we're gonna fight. So I gotta come armed with whatever my table is going to be for the defense, right? So a lot of people don't read enough of the policies and the procedures to understand what is there. They're not looking at previous platforms or previous issues. They're not informed. So sometimes they get the end run because they're coming in just thinking that people are being very, genuine. Meanwhile, it's just they're putting you up for hopefully or potentially a pitfall, right? So we have to do our part. Same with the conversations about community. Velma, as you stated, we got to be at all tables. Same thing. I've heard the same thing, and we do it currently. Our ministers and junior deputy ministers are sitting in the Conservative Party. We have people who have fought when they were in the community, were activists in what they were doing, but now we don't want to go and sit with them. Now we don't want to hear what they have to say because they're under the banner of conservative. Meanwhile, that's the party in power provincially at the moment. So you would want to be at the table. You would like to have those conversations because whether or not they hold that ministry that may have your particular interest, they're still the people who can then get you a meeting with the individual with the seat of power or the helm for what you require. So it's, again, people have to be able to strategic and navigate appropriately. So it's not about whether you fly under the banner of this. The point is we have to work collectively and strategically to get our points across, right? So that's what's key. So I see that there is a question that was asked. So Velma, from your perspective, and also Alethea, because you guys are also doing training and that, are there any upcoming training between your organizations? And I know someone has put something in the chat for individuals who want to run. Do we have like a 101 or something that is transparent? So Velma, I see you nodding, so I'll go to you first.
Yeah. So we're preparing for the municipal election. What we do in the study that we actually did, more Black people run at the municipal level than they do at the federal and provincial level. And that's simply because it's just easier. There isn't a nomination process. There isn't a vetting process. Basically, you just go in and get your signatures and you pay your fee and then you run. So what we are going to be doing, because it is municipal election next year, we're going to be having several activities. There's a program called Seat at the Table that we run. It's for Black women who want to run a municipal level. It starts in October, ends in April, and each month is a different training on how to run your campaign. We're doing it in Ontario, we're doing it in Nova Scotia, and then we'll have Municipal Politics 101. That's probably in January 2026, where we're going to be doing a workshop for anybody who wants to run municipally. And we're going to be actually having the clerk, the city clerk, come in and do the presentation on what the paperwork needs to be done. And then we'll have city councilors come in and say, well, this is the work, this one needs to happen. And then we also have October is Women's History Month. We will be having workshops throughout the month of October on running for an elected office. But we also like to say that, you know, being political, running for elected office isn't the only thing that you can do. So for people who don't want to run as an elected official, you could be on agencies, boards, or commissions. They're arm's length to the government, but they provide advice to the government and government legislation, and you get paid for it. So we're doing a session on ABCs, but also you could be a part of a writing association. You could do dissertations. There's so many different things that you can do other than run for politics if that's not your jam.
Okay, Alethea?
We don't have any upcoming sessions, but we do have a few recorded sessions on our YouTube channel that viewers may tune into. So Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, that's our YouTube channel. And like Velma said, it's also crucially important for community members to participate in those council meetings, show up. Right? It's not enough to just raise your voice when you have a concern. Understand what the political process is like. Show up to your school board meetings, be present so that you understand the things that are impacting you directly. So it's not just enough for you to be aware during election time. It's important for you to be present right throughout the year.
And that's what I was going to go to. That's why I parked the municipal for a minute. So municipal and trustee, people don't understand the importance and the real impact that happened there, right? Everyone's just into the glossy media, provincial and federal, but forget, municipal is all your base important things that impact you. Like that's where it's right at the genesis of you as an individual taxpayer. And a lot of people don't pay attention to what municipal government is and what it does, right? So the push I feel is to really start to focus in on that, really inform individuals as to what the positioning should be, how to build your team and to get yourself involved in the community. You should be participating in community meetings, sessions, groups, get yourself everywhere to know and find out. And then for trustee, because as an educator, Val and I are both teachers, the trustees wield the power, right? And a lot of people really don't understand how important it is to have trustees that look like you, trustees, and not even so much about be a skin to you, because we have people who are skin to us that are not akin to us, right? But people who know the policies well and the issues to speak at that table, because the trustees are who do the vote. So when I think about now the fact that, you know, the Minister of Education is potentially looking at legislation to bring back police into the schools, that's my motion that was brought forward from TDSB to remove the SROs from the school buildings that then went across the province. Now the school boards remove them. To think that that's coming back in without a proper consultation to understand again why they were removed, and I think that's ignorance and arrogance on their part to make sure that they have a strong understanding. So we need people at that level. Even when you think about, you know, policies that are being pushed now about sick leave for educators and that, we need trustees that have a clear understanding what that means, how it impacts your educators in your building. We're dealing with so much vacancies currently that are happening with teachers, jobs not being filled. You know, the public doesn't realize that it's not educators that are in those classrooms. You're dealing with just regular parents. Supplies that are there are not OTs. So there's a lot of nuanced pieces where we talk about politics and what politics is with the different levels, where the real strength and power lie. Real strength and power are at the trustees and the municipal level, because that's the everyday tangibles. Provincial and federal impact you on the large scale, but when you talk about everything that can really be detrimental to your kids' education, to your healthcare, your streets, your parking, your sewage, right? All of these things that impact. So where do you think we need to go? Are we doing well with what we have put forward? Or where else do we need to build? What else do we need to promote? Alita, to you.
So We're doing okay. There's always room for improvement, and how we gain some traction and momentum is by collaborating. And if I use my trustee role as an example, I am the only at my board, which is not unusual for many other trustees that are sitting around the table. But what I find impactful is the collaboration across the different boards with other Black trustees. So I'm sure individuals have heard of the Black Trustee Caucus that was founded, a few years ago by Trustee McDonald and Dr. Sinclair. Having other trustees at the table who you can share your experience with, you can bounce ideas off. It goes a long way in ensuring that you're moving those policies forward and you have an army of support around you to make sure that you're able to effect change in your own board. Likewise, when you have organizations that are coming together to amplify the voice of candidates who are running, that is powerful because not only one, and I'll use First Fridays as an example. We've been able to partner with First Fridays and a number of different organizations across Canada to be able to amplify the voice of those candidates who are running, but also to create the awareness for community members as well. And all that is just to make sure that there's collaboration. It's not just one group doing the work, but there's a collective amplifying the voices of so many individuals to make sure that we're able to move the needle forward. So that ongoing collaboration is important. The work that OBC is Operation Black Vote is doing to ensure that the education is there for the community members, the candidates have the right training, those are crucially important. And for those individuals who are in elected seats or appointed seats, networking and reaching out across the fence to shake hands and have conversations with other elected officials to make sure that you're understanding the policies and together you're moving the needle forward for the greater good of your community. That is super important.
Velma?
I think we're doing better than we were a few years ago. And I think what we need to do is show up. We need to show up. We're talking about municipal level. You could go to City Hall and watch City Council, or you can watch it on TV. You could speak on issues, do a dissertation on a particular policy proposal that they have. You could speak about it. And when you show up with people, because that always, like, what's going on here, right? You're sitting there one, but if you had like 5 or 6 people sitting in City Council, be like, okay, what's going on? What do they want? And attend events, attend AGMs, attend, I'm not talking about provincially and federally now, provincial council, AGMs, whatever it is that they're having, attend it, because now they know that you're interested. And that now, you're being involved. Like they don't, if you're not there, they don't even have to think about you. But once we're there, they think, wait a minute, now we have to, there's a community that's now being involved. Now we have to figure out how we're going to include them, or how they're going to include themselves into this situation. But when we're not there, nobody really thinks about us and our lived experience and how we're going to experience a particular policy. No one's looking out for us when we're not there. So we need to be everywhere. And so I think the biggest part is just showing up.
And Velma, I'm going to throw this question to you because there's a question that's asked about a national, resource or area where people can deal with politics. So that is what Operation Black Vote Canada is, right? Because it's on a national level. But if you want to explain again, who may have came in late. So how do people get involved? Can people volunteer with you, or is it you reaching out, or can people send finances to you to aid with what the organization does? So if you just want to go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, so Operation Black Vote, as I said, turned 20 years this year. It was started because of Jean Augustine. There's a whole backstory that the community, Dolores Lawrence, Hamlin Grain, Cynthia Reyes, Denham Jolly, they came together because of a situation with Jean Augustine and started Operation Black Vote Canada because we needed a voice in politics. So yes, you can volunteer. We have events throughout the year to volunteer on. We're working on some policy issues right now. We have a document called See at the Table. It is for Black women who want to run politically. It's on our website. You have to fill out a survey. But basically, this is the toolkit on how to run an election campaign. We also did our 20th year study on Black on the Ballot that talks about the lived experience of Black Canadians running at all levels of government for the past 20 years. And they also provide some solutions on to political parties and to government on how to rectify some of the negative experiences that Black Canadians have had. We do have our training. We used to have, so the 1834 fellowship used to be a part of Operation Black Vote, and that was a fellowship for Black youth interested in public policy. We've moved it out of Operation Black Vote because it just became too much for the organization, and it has its own foundation called the 1834 Foundation, and it has three components. He has a youth debates for grade 7 to grade 12, and we teach Black youth the art of debating. And then it has the fellowship, 18 to 25, which teach them about public policy. And then we actually get them jobs in public policy. And then is 1834 Global is 20 to 30 years old for Black youth who are interested in global and international affairs, because people who represent Canada abroad don't necessarily look like us. So we're preparing them as a pipeline into global affairs. So we have a whole slew of different activities that we do to engage the community, but to engage political parties. We partner with different organizations to put on dinner in politics or lunch in politics, depending on the time of day that we do it. And we partner with other organizations to do outreach, to do training, whatever it is that you need politically. You could probably find it at Operation Black Vote Canada. You can go to our website, obvc.ca. There is an application for if you want to either partner with us or if you want to volunteer with us. And of course, our entire board are all volunteers. All of us have been past political staff, so we know what we're doing because we worked in politics and on campaigns. But all our events are free, and it's free because people like you donate to us. So you can always donate online on our website.
Very good. So hopefully that covered a lot. And then also, like, when you said political staffer. What's a
Yeah.
political staffer? I don't know. What's that?
So what's interesting, because we tell this more for our young people that want to get into politics. So there's the political side and the bureaucracy side. I haven't worked on the bureaucracy side. I've only worked on the political side. And that's when you work directly for an elected official. And what I tell young people, if you want to work for an elected official, then you have to volunteer on campaigns, because that's where elected officials get their staffers. So as I said, I've been involved in politics since I was 15. And my first job was being a legislative assistant for a member. The member happened to be conservative, actually. She was a conservative member, and I worked on her campaign. I was the candidate staffer, so I went everywhere, the candidate's aide. I went everywhere with her. And then when she won, she asked me to come be her legislative assistant. Had no idea what it was, but I was able to figure it out and do the job. And so I tell Black youth especially, go and volunteer on campaigns. Don't go in once a day and fold pamphlets. Go in and try to be part of the campaign. You'll learn a lot. You'll meet a lot of people, because a lot of people from different life experiences work on campaigns. It'll expand your network. And some of my really good friends I've met on the campaign. And not only that, a lot of opportunities have come about because I've known these people who worked on campaigns. So work on a campaign, you eligible to become a political staffer. A political staffer, again, it's a job that you serve at the pleasure of your minister or your member, and you work directly for the party. So you have to really belong to the party to to be a political staffer for whatever member that wins and you work for. But that's also that could be a whole other topic, being a political staffer.
Alethea, do you have any insight there?
Yeah, so the only other insight I can share is another way of getting engaged is being part of a party. You don't necessarily have to be part of a party as well. You can show up to the different debates when it's election time. That's another great way for you to be exposed to what each candidate has to offer and each party platform has to offer. So just show up, be present, and you have the opportunity to learn so much. like you, if I did political science and I thought I had so much knowledge, going into the process, but it wasn't until I was actually boots on the ground, engaged in municipal election, that I was able to gain all the knowledge that I have now. And I still have so much more to learn. I've shown up to different debates, and you see all the different candidates and their platform, and you're able to glean so much nuggets and insights. So show up, be present. That's the best way that you can get engaged, and bring a young person along with you. That's how you're able to effect long-term change and change for the next generation. Don't just go alone. Just make sure you're bringing at least one person along with you.
And the other thing that people also miss, sorry, Velma, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've been a part of two political parties. So just because you decide that, this year you're going to be a part of X political party and you have a membership, doesn't mean that you're not married to them, right? As things change, I mean, I was part of one political party, and as things change or policies that they were doing change, I didn't like what they were doing. I decided to become a part of another political party. So don't think that you have to stay with that political party. A lot of people, like, if you think of Bob Ray, Bob Ray was a leader of the NDP party, and then he was interim leader of the Liberal Party. So, he high profile, changed political parties. So just think that, you could go and decide, I'm going to be on this political party. And if it doesn't work out for you, go to another political party. But whatever it is that you do, just try to get involved. You could determine who's going to be the next candidate for your riding. Because you belong to a riding association. So being a part of the party does gives you a little bit of power. And if you bring, as Althea said, people along with you, 3 or 4 people to join the political party, or your riding association, you could actually make really big changes.
And that's what I was going to say, because we have other individuals who have membership in all 4 political parties at one time, right? Because they just want to have a say in every little pocket. And the key thing too, I was a riding association president for a little while. So the riding is key. You can get involved in your riding that you're with, or a riding that you have interest in, because we all have moved from different places. So and actively participate. I'm seeing Andrew Moffat is on the line, and we're talking about roles that people play. Campaign management, one of the most astute individuals I know, who was a former candidate several times, but very strong knowledge when it comes to campaign rules and campaign management. So we have different people that have different skill sets and knowledge to draw upon, and it's about people becoming far more active. And we don't have to, again, the party lines that keep getting drawn, we got to kind of blur that, in the sense that let's get the knowledge and the insight and the information and pool it, so that we can work with each other, that when comes down to, whether it's municipal, and we know that maybe some people have been one party, the point is, who are the strongest? Who are the best? Who are we going to go support so that they can knock off their other competitors? Or who do we pool some resources towards, whether it's finances, boots on the grounds, getting literature to be sent out? Those are the things that we really have to work together, because part of our thing where we do get our divide is because we continually just keep ourselves in one section or one group, one party, and they know to take us for granted, right? So the other piece I wanted to try to bring, I know time is running on us though, is what do we do to support and get our members who are, in office, to make sure that they're talking about our issues? Because even though we said about that, we know that we still have to lend some of them support. Because we've heard from some that are there to say that, well, where are we to support them? So what can we do more? So in a way, Velma, throw to you, and Alethea, I'm throwing to you, as to, with your different organizations or group, how do we bring those members to a session so that people come in to also support them? What can we do externally as community to also support them with what they got to bring into the house, right?
So I guess let's take municipal out of it and do provincial and federal. Once they're elected, it becomes a little bit more dicey, because then it actually does become partisan, right? So I think, depending on which party you belong to, or let's say you belong to no party, when they put forward a motion, support them on that motion. Go and speak on that motion. Tweet or go on social media to support them on that particular motion, so people could understand that they actually have a community behind them, that this is not just something that they're doing on their own. That's one step. Invite them to different events to highlight them, because a lot of times they may not get invited to other events. So invite them to our events so they could get highlighted. And I think just in general, just support what they do. Like if even if on social media repost what they post, if it's something that aligns with you, repost it. But as I said, it does get dicier because then it becomes partisan if you're elected, because even though you're Black, you may belong to a different party that I belong to. So for some people that matters, for other people that doesn't matter. So they're just gonna support them regardless. But it does become dicier because sometimes it gets partisan.
Yeah, I think at the municipal level, it's going to be show up and provide that support. As I mentioned earlier, showing up at those council meetings, there may not be an agenda item, but your presence there reminds those at the table that, they need to look out for your needs as well. Same with the school board. Show up at those school board meetings. There may not be an agenda item, but your presence will make a difference. Also, sharing your concerns, you can reach out to your elected official, whether it's through an email or a phone call. Just share your experience with them so that they can be that voice to effect change at the table for you. Sometimes it's not necessarily only putting forward concerns, but you can also bring solutions to the table. That's also crucially important, because no one person can come up with a solution that will be, the solution that solves everything for everyone. But if you come to the table with a solution that will help to drive the initiative forward. Likewise, when there are community engagements, show up and be present. Support your candidate. There are so many things that you can do, but just that support in itself is crucially important.
And as we wrap up, so Velma, top 3 things that you would say to Black women getting involved in politics. What do they require? What should they need to know? What do they need to prepare?
Oh, okay. One, you're ready when you're ready. Don't let anybody make you run before you want to run. You can only decide when you're ready. Two, make sure you have everything in order, whether it's your personal issues or professional issues. Make sure they're in order so you could actually run. Have the freedom to just to run and focus on running. And also take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. We know that when Black women run, well, when Black people run, but in particular Black women run, they get harassment. No one really talks about their policy, but they talk about what they look like. They talk about the way they speak. They talked about everything but their experience. So make sure that you take care of your mental health. Make sure that you have time off. Make sure you have strategies in place for when, not if, but when these things happen to you. But run. But we need you to run and be involved.
Alethea?
Wow. Mental health is definitely key. I don't think I have 3 points, but the one point is just take care of your mental health, as Velma said. Having experience on the ground, it can be taxing. And, individuals have asked me personally if I will ever run again. And I don't know, because I know the weight of what it takes to run. I am not completely out of the game yet, but it's the honest and raw feeling that I have right now. It's a lot. And so the one takeaway that I will give to anyone is just to take care of your mental health and be ready. Make sure that you have your family's support and extended support to make sure that you are okay.
Yeah, because I would just say you got to have tenaciousness, right? Because if you're going to run, you need tenaciousness and fortitude, because one, you need to know the party that you're running for, and the reason why you're running. If you're running because you just want a title and prominence and the so-called finances, you're not going to last long. Politics, they keep saying it is a beast, right? It'll eat you for breakfast. So if you're someone that is fickle, who has not really done your research to understand and look at the various policies, the procedures, behaviors and conducts of the leaders, and know what your writing might also have, like, you really have to do your background info, and you have to have that fortitude to know that you're basically sojourning it on your own. Yes, you have a circle in the sense of who's supporting you, but when the negativity comes at you, you got to have a backbone to stand, and you got to be very quick-witted. You can't be someone that is sitting to ponder and think when you've already had the slings and arrows thrown at you, because by that time your numbers have dropped in the polls and people are saying you're weak. So you really and truly have to go into this eyes wide open. You have to be prepared for the negativity, but there's also the positives, because I think Velma said this before. When you door knock, and by the way, get some great running shoes. All right, you need some fantastic footwear, because if you really are going to make inroads, you got to be at the doors. You got to be knocking, meeting people, speaking with people, knowing the issues, knowing what's happening in neighborhoods, what's on the larger scale, because that's when people know that you truly understand, you believe in the work, and you're showing up at their doors. And it makes a big inroads, because when I ran against Sandra Pupatello, who, if anyone knows politics, is one of the strongest politicians at the time, and still is. I think she still should be in it. But I made some serious inroads that she had to come off of the leadership campaign because of the numbers I was polling in that riding for a first-time runner in Windsor West, right? So know your stuff. You can't be a Mickey Mouse person that's trying to run. You have to have the conviction, and with the conviction of running, be informed, be versed, and understand things land at your feet that you're going to have to take up. Velma?
Yeah, so Sandra's a senator now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about campaigns, is campaign workers. Because whenever I worked on campaigns, I was usually one of, or maybe two of, Black people on the campaigns. Now my expertise is E-Day. People call me in to do their E-Day. But we need more exports. We need more Black people to be campaign managers, to be you know, sign share, fundraiser, E-Day. So, we're going to be training people on those roles, because we need you on those roles, whether it's for Black candidates or any other candidate, because if you're good, you're good. Doesn't matter which candidate you work for. But we need to also be a part of that, because that's an area of elections and campaigns that we're not really a part of, because we don't volunteer, so we don't get to learn the skills on one of these roles. So being able to work on campaigns and taking on lead roles in campaign, I think, is also key in order to get our community organized, because they're always looking for these people, right? Always looking for these people to run campaigns, and it's an area that we lack.
Well, very good, ladies. I'll give you your final wrap up here. We've done well. There's so much to talk about on this topic. We're going to have to do a part 2. But in concluding, Ms. Alethea, what do you want everybody to know? What information you want to share?
Yeah, so in conclusion, running for office, whether it's at the municipal level, provincial or federal, your reason for has to be bigger than you. It's not about you, it's about, the broader community. So take away your own personal emotions and look at the big picture. Why are you doing this? It can't be for the title, it can't be for the money. And let's be honest, the money is not the greatest. It's money, but it's not the greatest. So your reason why has to be bigger. And just run, have the courage to run. We've seen so many leaders who have put their name forward and have led amazing campaigns and have been elected into various roles. So just have the courage to run and know that you can.
Very good. And Velma?
At Operation Black Vote, we say representation matters, but for us, representation is the floor, not the ceiling. So it's just the start. We want you to be involved in all aspects of our government. So yes, we want you to run. We need your voice. We need your lived experiences. But we also want you to do other things. We want you to be campaign managers. We want you to be a part of agencies, boards, and commissions. We want you to be political staffers. We want you to be involved in all segments of government. And the only way to do that is to educate yourself on the different ways of being involved. Voting is the low-hanging fruit, and it only happens once every 4 years. We need you involved in between those years. In order for our community to not be collateral damage, in order for our community to have the same quality of life as everyone. And that's by having you at those decision-making tables.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Velma Morgan and Alethea O'Hara Stevenson, our panelists for today with their thank them for sharing their information. I thank you for taking time out of your day. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here with us. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully we'll have a part 2, and we'll see you next week on next week's panel that will be happening. So until then, keep well, be safe, and have a fantastic Sunday.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine,